Hi, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me well, and you can also see my presentation. So very quickly about the agenda, because we don't have a lot of time. What we'll talk about today is, of course, strategies. What are some effective strategies when you try to scale UX in your organizations? And we'll try to talk about this through the lens of common mistakes, because I want you at the end of this to really be able to first remember the presentation, of course, but also I want you to be able to look at things that you have done in the past, probably not very successfully, and you can say, well, that's how I can fix this. So what is a complex environment? Usually when I say complex environment, a lot of people quickly jump to, oh, enterprise. This is not what we mean here. A complex environment is any environment, any company, small or big, that has some kind of unpredictable changes. This can be anything around ownership, dependencies, complex product ecosystem, or decision-making and rapid strategy changes. When we talk about scaling UX, for those of you familiar with design operations, this is pretty much the same thing, in my opinion. When we talk about scaling UX, we talk about scaling people, scaling operations, and scaling impact. For the interest of time, we'll talk about the last two. People, it's a completely different topic, in my opinion, something that you need to be approaching in different ways. When we talk about creating any type of strategy for scaling UX, implementing design operations, improving design operations, and impacting your organizations, usually you should go, and hopefully you go through this process, which is first evaluation, you research the problem space and identify different operational pain points in the design teams, but also with design team partners, so product management, developers, customer success, whoever you end up working with. Then you go to define the opportunities, and based on the opportunities, you can also define your strategy, hopefully for 3 to 5 years view. Anything shorter than that, I really don't think you can call it a strategy. Then you go to prioritization based on the different goals, business, company goals. You can actually assess which of those opportunities are more important and how can you prioritize them based on impact and feasibility. And then execution, which is the most important part in my opinion, is how can you plan tactical efforts with clear outcomes and ownership that can actually advance your strategy plan during the next 3 to 5 years. So who here has heard of chaos? Okay. Many of you, not all of you. A little bit of context. Chaos is a company that is mostly popular with CGI. Chaos was given an Oscar in like 5 years ago. Time flies pretty quickly for achievement to cinema because of a product called V-Ray and additional product that is called Phoenix. It's for simulation. Chaos, however, is not just that. We have over 10 products, over 10 integrations just for our most popular product, and about 8 integrations plus minus 1 for our second most popular product. We also have over 10 customer portals for UX teams. This is a result not just of growth. There are a lot of acquisitions that happened during the years, especially in the last 3 years. There was a very big merge with a company called Escape, which is, again, a visualization technology with a slightly different technical capabilities, let's say, aimed for architects and early visualization, while Chaos historically was more popular for advanced visualization, VFX, etc. So you can imagine in this situation, you have a lot of inconsistency, a lot of varying quality, processes, very well research adoption, and very late involvement of user experience in general. And in terms of product experience, you can imagine that most of the products look nothing alike and behave nothing alike. These are just some examples of results with Chaos products. And you can say, well, those are some cool visualizations. Those are actually 3 different products. It's not just one product, because there's different technology, different experience for getting those results. So when I joined Chaos and I assessed the environment, I found the opportunities. The strategy, in my opinion, was very straightforward, very clear from the beginning. We had to increase the UX maturity and adopt different research practices. We had to achieve some kind of process and quality improvement and standardization across the different UX teams. And last but not least, we had to deliver some kind of experience unification across all customer touchpoints. Pretty straightforward, right? So, what are some of the common mistakes in scaling UX operations in impact, and how can you actually mitigate those and really have tactical efforts, feasible efforts that can help you advance your strategy, no matter how complex or big it is? Starting with maturity misalignment. Because we are very passionate about UX, obviously, we often aim to execute strategy and advance our UX strategy very rapidly without taking into consideration the respective level of maturity in your organization. And this is a very important step you need to go through each time, whatever company you join, first assess the level of maturity. Why that is important? Rapid changes in maturity really lead to resistance. It doesn't matter if people believe in you or believe in UX, it's about change. And change can really only happen slowly and incrementally. So instead, focus on incremental changes over time, especially in the early maturity stages. Just to give it a little bit more realistic perspective, what that means is, if you're in the first stages of maturity between absent, disorganized UX, to structured UX, let's say, it's very important that you focus on building the skills and processes, you focus on building team and culture, and then from partner perspective, you focus on building awareness and building partnerships. That awareness and those partnerships are what will really help you advance the strategy once you get to a more structured approach and process of user experience in your organization. When we get to the more advanced maturity stages towards user-driven experience, which very little number of companies actually have, then you go to systemized growth, diversification of skill sets, of processes, whatever you might need, and then strategic impact and increasing the value. And the mistake is you try to increase value and be strategic while you still don't have a well-defined process and you don't have the right touch points and collaboration with your stakeholders. To simplify this, scaling UX is pretty much the shift from efficient allocation and UX advocacy to efficient enablement and UX impact. I hope this is a good takeaway for all of you. It's a very meaningful thing to take away because while you don't have the resources, the processes, and everything else set in place, it's very important how you allocate your personal efforts, the efforts of your team, how you prioritize, how you track and measure work, and how you can show value. The other mistake that we talked about earlier during the UX strategy panel is, and I think Raya also mentioned this, is the disconnect from the business. While we are very passionate about user-centered design and design thinking and all of those different beautiful processes and frameworks and words, UX is not an isolated practice, so it's very important that we understand the context in which user experience exists, why it exists, and how can we support that whole environment and ecosystem. So when we look at this graphic, I really love graphics because they help me explain things. When you try to plan research, always ask what is the business strategy and how can you plan research efforts to support the business strategy. Additionally, if we only talk about UX design efforts, you can use the business strategy to really understand where you need to prioritize and where you need to allocate resources if you're a team leader. Additionally, when we go to the design process, it's very important that we don't just assess our designs and experiences only based on the users and the customer outcomes. Of course, that is mandatory, but we also should evaluate our designs against the business strategy. And this will help us in our conversations. This can be something as simple as, well, did this journey that we designed that's so great for users, did it really help move any kind of business metric? Did we really support anything meaningful for the business? And that will really help you in your conversations. When we talk about evaluation and measurement, again, assess impact of the UX effort and the UX investments against the business outcomes. Very quick example around business goals in chaos. One of the biggest, if not the biggest goal, maybe the two biggest goals I'll talk about today. The first one was transition to a named licensing model to decrease license abuse and to foster better customer relationships with our users. So what that means is, right now we don't really know who our users are, we don't require them to sign in, so we do have some kind of high-level data, but we cannot really match it to a profile, persona, and we don't have a really meaningful way to leverage that data to inform our decision-making, because historically we were a technical-driven company. So what this named license will do is it will actually help us be closer to our customers. So what I did is I sat down with my team and I said, where are the touch points for UX where, named licensing model is not something that they really need us for, right? They can implement it pretty straightforwardly. Sign in, name, maybe telephone number for big businesses, because we currently do require that. But other than that, we don't really need to engage. However, we did find that there were several touch points where we could bring additional value to the business and to our customers. The first one being our customer self-service portal. Right now, it has very low adoption. It has some pretty cool features, but nobody's really using them. And the experience is semi-good. It was well-designed, well-implemented, so there are still more opportunities for it to be improved. So what we did is, because of the named licensing, the user will have more access to their own data. They'll have more access to test new features, to activate different products within our self-service portal, to test cloud credits for cloud rendering, etc., many other things. So we ended up doing a heuristic evaluation, and we presented the findings to our stakeholders. And because the self-service portal would be very important in the context of named accounts, we actually were able to get buy-in to redesign the whole thing from scratch and really improve the end customer experience. The other thing that we were able to do because of this named licensing model is we'll get additional data, right? We'll get information about the particular usage of each user persona, user profile, whatever you want to call it. And this means that we can leverage this enhanced data to improve our in-product experience. Right now, we don't have that. However, we didn't really have any information about our customers' need in relations to personalization or in-product customization. So module management, customizable UIs, or I don't know. There can be many things that we can do with customization, right? So what happened is we actually pitched product leadership that we can do this, relatively comprehensive research effort, qualitative, quantitative, and we can better understand our customer sentiment towards personalization and customization. So we can actually provide more customized journeys for whatever their needs might be. As I mentioned earlier, we have architects, we have VFX artists, we have technical artists, we have product designers, we have whitening specialists. So there are a lot of different types of personas that we serve. The other thing that was defined as the big business goal for the fiscal year was simplify our business offering by providing an end-to-end visualization suite. So a group of products, pretty much what Adobe Creative Cloud is doing, right? And, excuse me, what that meant for us is we can actually use this opportunity to improve our cross-product experience. We can push forward some alignment efforts, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, this means that as 4 different UX teams having several different design systems and UI libraries, we can actually get to some kind of design system unification. And pretty interestingly, sales came to us and asked, how can we sell these tools together? This is just a toolbar example of Enscape, which is one of the companies we merged with, I think about 2 years ago. And then our newest product, as you can see, very different design, look and feel. Another good example here of how different the different tools are. They serve completely different groups. However, they can be used as part of the same flow. So that was very, very important for us because we were able to actually advance our UX strategy in 4 different ways. The first one is we executed the heuristic evaluation to inform decision-making, not just in relation to those efforts, but we actually created a very big backlog with improvements we can implement over time. We increased the UX maturity by showing value to the business. I think when we actually created those tangible UX efforts that supported the business, they were able to really get it. And then we unified toolbar icons across several products. We unified colors. We unified a couple of other things, which was, again, a tactical effort that advances our strategic goal to unify our products. And we unified several journeys and interaction models in 2 of the key products that will be sold together as part of a cross and upselling program. Cool. So another common mistake, seeking perfection, especially when it comes to seeking unification and consistency efforts. I think one of the biggest mistakes we often do is we try to implement processes or we try to create consistency without considering the differences in the ecosystem. It could be product specifics, it could be function specifics, just kind of disconnected from the reality. So instead, what really needs to happen is we need to focus on removing and minimizing friction points in practices and standards, but at points that truly matter and at steps that really matter. So what are the touch points that matter? First, touch points that mitigate risks for the business. I think this is a big one. If you're able to mitigate any type of risk for the business, they will see the value. What we did is, for this new product, we tested a completely reworked journey with customers, existing customers, some new customers, and potential customers, and we were able to validate very early on that this experience is actually better than we would already have in legacy products, and the new functionalities, new enhancements are actually intuitive for end users, so the business felt more secure in what we are doing and delivering. The second one is touch points that improve quality and impact. I think this is a pretty clear one. And last but not least, touch points that improve design velocity, or how quickly we deliver and how efficiently. I've added extra examples for those after the presentation at resources, so you'll be able to look at those when UX Sofia sends out the presentations. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. When we talk about improvements, it's very important that you plan and prioritize efforts that have either multiple outcomes or can have multiple benefits for the business or for UX. Why is that important? If you only set one goal, let's say you're doing this big research, let's say it's personas. I'll talk about personas in a bit. Let's say you're doing personas and your only goal is to understand users better. That's a great goal. However, let's say you fail for some reason. Then you failed 100% on your goal. If you say, we can do personas to better understand our products, but also to our users, but also we want to investigate some other topic. Let's say you are not able to talk with as many people as you needed to in order to validate personas, but you were able to gather some insights for that other topic. So you're halfway there, you were already partially successful. Insights generation and artifact fixation. So I'm very passionate about this one, and I know some colleagues might not agree with me, but I think it's very important that we stop talking about creating personas, creating journey maps, and we start talking about insights. While personas and journey maps are great, they're just a format, a visualization of customer insights, and they're presented in a certain way to help us empathize with them, to help our stakeholders better understand what we do and how they can further leverage those insights. So instead of, let's say you join a new company, you want to, you go there and you ask, do you have personas? And they say no. And you're like, well, we need to do personas. Stop there and think for a bit for a moment. Do you really need to do personas, or do you need understanding of your users? Because if you want that, there are multiple ways you can do that, and you can get a pretty good understanding of your customers without ever spending an hour working on a persona. So what kind of data can you leverage? Customer success data. In different companies, this can look different. In some companies, customer success manages CSAT service, NPS services. In other cases, they have closer relationships with some customers, so they talk a lot with them. They have a lot of qualitative data. Product analytics, interviews, product managers are doing marketing data. You can do tons of external research. If you are, something that's B2C, you can look at product reviews. You can look at different community touch points, YouTube videos, forums. You can look at customer support tickets, something that is not leveraged enough, in my opinion. So look at those. And after you do that, see what the gaps are in your knowledge. So that's when you know if you need to do personas or you need to do something else. Yeah, pretty much what I said. Moving forward, this is something that I love doing because I feel like I'm cheating the business and the company. When you plan research that is business aligned, you have buy-in, you're already doing something. Slightly expand the scope of that effort to fill gaps in your current knowledge. Right now, we are doing something very similar with the personalization and customization research. Because we are also working on very big set of AI services for artists, visual artists, architects. We really have a gap in our knowledge how architects, product designers, interior designers currently leverage AI technology out there for their particular use cases. So what we are doing, we're doing a focus group. We talk about personalization, customization, and we add workflows. And you try to understand, are they using something? How are they using it? So we actually fill those gaps that we have in our knowledge. How are we doing with time? We're doing well, okay. This one is also, it's actually connected to something that I believe Faraz said earlier about ownership and responsibility. And I would asking for permission. So because we're problem solvers again, we always try to fix things. We try to break silos. We try to make people work together. We try to align the business and the users and whatnot. What often happens is because we're trying to align with every single function in the business, we actually end up asking for permission in order to do our job. And if you're doing that, stop doing it. You don't need permission to usability test. You don't need permission to unify products. You just need to have the right partners across the organization. It could be different UX team. It can be, a couple of customers. Honestly, I leverage that a lot. I have a couple of friends with studios for ArcVis visualization. I just go to their office and I start asking questions. I don't ask for permission to do that. What's really important for alignment, because alignment is important. I'm not telling you to not collaborate and not align with your stakeholders, but what's really important is, especially when it comes to big efforts or efforts that will have relatively big impact, do not align on efforts that will not be implemented immediately, and do not prioritize alignment on how the data you gather will be leveraged. Because honestly, in product companies, that can take years. If I go and try to figure out with development teams, will they implement this feature, and then also with product, that is like, let's say, 2 to 3 years view, they'll say, I have no idea what you're talking about. I have this roadmap for the next month and a half. I have 2 sprints planned ahead, whatever. Instead, prioritize alignment efforts that will impact your scope, so the scope of the research, or alignment efforts that can improve your execution process or quality. Depending on your context and company, this can be alignment with marketing or customer success to receive some kind of support for customer reach out and participant recruitment or something like that. Something like this for chaos personalization and customization. As you can see, there are many different, let's call them pillars of personalization and customization, and they all have different stakeholders. So in-app product notifications, campaigns for marketing, sales, customer success, customizable UIs, which is more our area, enhanced personalized journeys in product and outside of the product, which has customer success and learning team touch points, product and dev. So if we wanted to align with every single function for this research, we would have never executed it, we just started executing and aligned with only with the people that made sense to be aligned with. I think this is the last one that I will share today, and then there will be a couple of ones in the resources, but I think it's something we don't really talk about often enough, which is to benchmark first. We mentioned data and metrics and KPIs a couple of times. However, I really don't think that UX metrics alone, like you do some kind of effort and you communicate, our task success rate was 65%, and the time spent on task was 3 minutes. And if you communicate that, you get up, what does that mean? Why should I care? So this is a mistake we often make. We want to execute, we present results, but we don't give context and for our stakeholders to really assess if this is a good thing, bad thing, or whatever. So instead, use every opportunity to benchmark first, either compare the metrics against industry standard, previous state of the experience, maybe what other competitor is doing, look at product reviews of similar features in competitive solutions, and see how your particular feature, product, or service, or whatever you're working on, how that experience is doing compared to something else, and communicate it in that context, because that will give you leverage to show they're doing it better than us, so we can do it better too, right? To wrap up very quickly, if there are like 3 things I want you to remember of this presentation. First, focus on incremental changes and removal of friction points where it really matters and where you can see the most impact. You don't have to change it all from scratch, all at once. You can do it slowly, over time, with the right focus, and hopefully with the right partners. The next thing is link any UX effort, or at least big UX effort, to business objective to ensure buy-in and to faster the adoption of your strategy, whatever that is. And then be flexible in execution and quick to adapt to business and market changes. Which, again, to go back to the UX strategies panel earlier, be context aware. If the strategy is changing, meaning the business strategy, the company strategy is changing, change with it. And that way you'll be able to really drive value and to really see impact of your work. And I'll stop here. Thank you.
Nice. Yeah, while Milen is going for his headset, any questions to Kremena? Yeah. We'll take just 2.
Okay, thanks. So you mentioned about touch points that mitigate risks for the business, and that was something that you concentrated, one of the things. So how these risks for the business were defined, where they came from the stakeholders, or they came from UX research?
I was listening to what people were talking about. So again, it's not like someone came to me and told me like this is a big risk for us. If you are present in meetings, if you look at conversations during all hands or some kind of organizational meetings, you always hear those things if you're looking for them. You don't need for someone to come and say this is the biggest risk, fix it for us. Listen to what's important. Usually business strategy is always communicated. Organizational strategy, team strategy as well. Ideally it's mapped to like the top C-level leaders, and if you really listen to what they're talking about, you just need to make it contextual for UX. So how can you map what you're doing to those different objectives? And usually they're connected. It's very rare that you're working on something that's not connected to some kind of business goal. Because why are you working on it? They're paying you to do something that they will not leverage. Probably not. Hopefully that answered your question. There's a really good example in the resources of how we did that.
Thank you for the great presentation. I really enjoyed it. I do have a question, probably related more, if you're allowed to tell us those things. Because you mentioned you have 4 different teams and multiple products that you guys develop. is there a person in the organization that oversees the whole 4 teams of UX, and how do you collaborate? Okay.
Yeah.
How did you actually make those people, like teams, different teams, talk to each other and make the, the impact actually on those? Yeah.
It was hard, not because people did not want to collaborate, but because they had different processes, different culture rituals, and everything else, like design systems you can imagine. It was definitely not a quick process, but UX usually doesn't, UXers don't like to be isolated. So once I talked to each team, there were particular problems for each team, of course, so we tried to fix those first in kind of isolation in the first like 3 to 6 months. And after that, and when we went through a centralization, so all the teams report to me, I started creating the adequate structure to support the different teams, because before that it was just me and I think 14 or 15 people now that reporting to me. So we had to, prepare some people for team lead roles, hopefully manager roles. We hired researchers, of course, who are, heavy executing mode, so they cannot support every product, only priority efforts. So it was so, but when we started actually having those rituals, like retros, we did several retros where we really identified the different pain points. We did, monthlies, weeklies, those are like regular things. We did a couple of workshops together. We also did, I cannot say it was really a design thinking workshop, but a simplified design thinking workshop, and we tried to solve something together. So it was very slow and hard, but it happened because we started, having those separate efforts to work on, and then we came together, we shared our experiences, and now with our suite offering, we actually have the opportunities to work on different products. So one designer can support more than one product, or at least an integration with another product. There are the design system unification efforts. That is really something that keeps the team together, because they have to drive that together, because the design system has to suit needs for different products. So yeah, hopefully that answered your question. It's not short answer. It's a lot of things that happen. Yeah, thank you.